In this interview, we talked to Gaurav. He recently hit 10,000 in a single month, and that was very recent, December of 2020. The cool thing is he started his niche site and affiliate site journey in 2020. Pretty crazy. He's done so much in a very short amount of time. He shares his journey, challenges along the way, how he approaches content, and the key role that the keyword golden ratio played in the success here. So, one cool thing is Gaurav is extending an exclusive offer to this audience. He has some capacity on his team to write content for other affiliate and niche site owners. So he has some pretty cool deals out there. I'm going to put a link in the show notes and description here so you could check it out. You'll get a 10% discount. I am also an affiliate. So if you do sign up, I really appreciate it. I'm actually getting a commission if you do sign up, but you do save 10%, which is a plus. So it's a win-win situation, and I appreciate any support. So without further ado, let's get to the interview. Hey, Gaurav, how's it going today?
Hi, Doug. I'm good. How are you?
Doing great. It's a pleasure to have you back on the show. A lot of people were asking me to get an update from you. So, what do you have for us? I'm kind of interested in like the last month, December of 2020, sort of hear revenue numbers, and then we're going to sort of back into how you got to where you are right now.
Okay, thank you so much. It's always good to be with you. And the December month, the last month was the best month ever, and we crossed a milestone. When last we had met, I was running a single site. Now I have a portfolio of 8 sites, and the entire portfolio crossed $10,000 of revenue. And that was it. And it's kind of grown for the last few months. Some of it was a little bit of a carryover from the Black Friday weekend, which was in the last week of November. But yeah, I'm happy that we achieved that milestone. And this month as well, despite the some of the sites being hit by the Google update, we are on track to come pretty close to that number. So yeah, the duck seems to be in the way.
Congrats. That's one of those milestones people really want to make 10K per month. And the fact that you hit it so quickly is very amazing. Now, we were chatting beforehand, but I want to make sure people understand the breakdown of the earnings and the fact that you have a portfolio of sites. And people may be thinking, hey, 8 sites, I don't want to have that many sites. So what's the breakdown of the revenue across your portfolio?
Okay, so the top 2 sites are contributing to most of the revenue. I would say a little over 80%, closer to 85, is what the top two are contributing. Those are the two that I focus the most time, energy, effort, and money on. And the others are kind of there because I was on an acquisition spree, so to speak, and there were good opportunities that came along. So I'm keeping them as a backup. I kind of put content on them as and when I can. But the top two, which contribute to 85% of the revenue, remain biggest focus.
Got it. And as far as the revenue breakdown from the sources, where are you earning money? I know a lot of people really still focus on Amazon just because it's such a big market. It converts really well. But, people are looking to diversify. So, yeah, where are you earning money from?
So all of this revenue, 100% of this has come from Amazon last month. I am looking to diversify. I haven't yet been successful in running ads on the site because I got them started, and then there was a problem of extra clicks where my account got blocked. So I'm still waiting out that block period to get them started again. The biggest site is knocking on the doors of media buying numbers. So I'm torn between running, going with Ezoic or going directly with media buying because like it's probably a month or two away at least. So to answer your question, yes, it's entirely Amazon right now. But if I were to project 6 months out, I would be projecting it to be, not more than 50% Amazon. So I have a few things that I've been working on that have taken longer to materialize. And I mentioned or alluded to them in our last discussion, which was around lead generation. But they are coming online. So I expect that Amazon would be about 50% and then 50% would be other sources.
Amazing. Yeah. Once you diversify that, it kind of lifts some of the weight, some of the stress off your shoulders. It'll feel a little nicer, and most likely you will earn more per visitor, and the sites are growing as well, which is pretty cool. So we've heard some of the stats, some of the numbers. We're going to talk more about that. Let's sort of go back to the beginning for the people that didn't catch the first interview. Can you give a little intro on your background and how you got started with niche sites? Because it wasn't really that long ago, right?
Yes, so it was exactly when the COVID lockdown happened. So it was April of 2020, and I bought an existing site about 10 odd days before the Amazon rate cut. So that was a bit of a bummer. But since then, I ended up putting a whole lot of content on there, and 100% of that was KGR. I really loved the framework, and because of that, the site has grown very significantly. Basically, the COVID lockdown helped me focus and get this going. Apart from that, I have my own business here, which has got nothing to do with these sites. But now, I mean, $10,000 a month is a fair bit of money. Right? So.
Especially the growth trajectory that you're on, which is pretty impressive. So, and what about your, previous professional experience? Did you have a corporate job ever, or were you always an entrepreneur?
Oh, so yeah, I had one of those well-paying, very well-paying corporate jobs. But again, it was something which was stressful. Both my wife and I, she used to work for a big American bank. I used to work for a big supply chain company. And at some point of time, we figured we are not really cut out for something like this. So that's when we took the entrepreneurial route. And I can say I've been there, done that in terms of the corporate life, but I would not give this for anything. The ability to work from home, freedom.
Oh yeah, just you have the flexibility to work on the stuff you want to work on. It's pretty amazing. Now, I spent some time at the corporate gig too, and I think I learned some pretty valuable stuff. Is there anything where you really value those lessons you learned, even though you had to sit in the cubicle, potentially travel, and deal with the nightmare of the corporate gig? Did you learn anything that you wouldn't trade?
Oh, yes. Two things I learned, which I'm implementing right now. So, one thing a lot of people talk about, which is scaling things and using, like you cannot be Superman, you can't do everything yourself. So, using teams and building teams, that's what has helped me scale the first site with a huge amount of content. So, that was one thing. The other thing, which was very specific to my past company, it was a very scrappy. It's a huge company, which it's a very scrappy sort of a company where you're out there doing very bare, brass knuckles sort of work, and they always said that you change one thing at a time. So if you want to expand your business, let's say you're selling square widgets. So either you start selling square handkerchiefs or you start selling round widgets. So you change either the shape or the product, change one thing at a time, and hence expand into adjacencies. So that was one thing that I took away from them, and I implemented here in my website business. It's paid me well or served me well.
That totally makes sense. And I can see probably a lot of people are seeing the parallels, hopefully for the stuff that they're doing. But I'm thinking about that for myself and some of the projects that I have worked on in the past and things that I'll work on in the future where, like you said, one thing's working. So just change the one thing. Pretty valuable. So Let's talk about expanding the site and using the keyword golden ratio. You mentioned that it works great for you. It's fantastic to hear. I get about, I don't know, 2 or 3 comments a day coming from various places that are like, KGR doesn't work. It's a dumb idea, blah, blah, blah. It seems to, and I don't even defend it anymore, to be honest with you, but it's because of people like you who can say, hey, it worked for me in this instance. So tell us about what you did. How much content did you put on that first site? And tell us about the content process.
Okay, so when I inherited the site, it had a little over 20 articles. And over the last 8 months now, we've published 500 more. So we've really grown that site, and we've only focused on KGR keywords. I always had heard from a lot of experts that long tail is the way to go. But how do you define long tail? And what I like about KGR is that there's a set framework. There are numbers to it. There's a ratio, and you run with it. It might work for some people. It might not. It worked beautifully for me. My process was initially I hired writers, and I grew the team to about, I think, 10 writers in total that I was managing. And I realized that I have taken up a management nightmare. So to help things out a bit, I promoted my best writer to become the editor, and he started then managing the entire team of writers. It was a win-win because he saw that I had aggressive goals as far as content is concerned. So he was growing with me. His family they were new to the country. They did not have any other source of income. So that really helped them. And it was good for me as well, because all of a sudden, I mean, my cost did go up a little, but scale suddenly became that much more possible, because now I could give him, let's say 80 topics, 100 topics. And I just would give him, for an example, how to X, or if I were doing a best X of Y, or if I were doing, a particular product review. So, a good ballpoint pen for journaling, for example. So, and he would then run with it. He would just be able to take care of it. And then, so this structure worked for me. And then I replicated. So I had one editor, and I replicated the structure by building more editors and then getting them to specialize. So one of them specializes in best of articles. The other one specializes in how-to articles, and so on and so forth. And each, like now we've got a team of 3 editors, and each one of them has anywhere between 3 to 8 writers. So yeah, it's an entire setup that's churning out almost, we touched 1 million words last month. So
wow, 1 million words. Wow, that's amazing. So how many writers and editors do you have all together there total?
So 3 editors, and let me see, 3, 6, and 8. That would make 17 writers, but some of them just do it full time, whereas most of them are part-time.
Got it. So about a team of 20, and what you described is literally the way that I, would spawn up a writing team. You identify a good writer, you see if they want to do a little extra, they become the editor, and then they already know the style, they understand what the content is that you're looking for. And then oftentimes, not always, but most of the time, people are up for variety, doing something a little more challenging, a little higher level. So, and the other thing is you slowly did it over time. So, some companies call them pods or teams or whatever, but you have individual teams that can focus on certain things so they become more efficient and better at those specific tasks that they're working on. So really smart way to pull it together in 20 people. That's quite a few. Were there any interesting challenges along the way when you were hiring or scaling the size of that team?
Not interesting challenges, but I very soon realized that I have to include initially I was hiring pretty much anyone who was able to deliver a certain quality. But very soon I realized that I also have to include quantity because every writer comes with a certain management overhead. So if a particular writer or a particular person on the team is able to generate only, let's say, 5,000 words a week, maybe that person at the scale that I'm operating today, that person is not worth, that person is probably not even worth my editor's management time right now. So a couple of months into this, we very quickly realized that along with good quality delivery, it has to be a certain minimum amount of work that needs to come through.
Okay, that totally makes sense. There's always the overhead, like you mentioned, that it's hard to account for, but you have to do it, especially at the scale you're operating. So do you have a handle on how much it costs for each article, including all the overhead time, the management time, any hourly, all together? Do you know how much, say, like 1,000-word article costs?
Okay, so 1,000-word article would cost roughly between, I would say, if I were to put in everything, like, oh, by the way, we do infographics, especially on the 1,000 and 1,500-word articles as well. So that takes the cost up a little. But 1,000-word article would cost me total, all put together, roughly around $45 to $50, and yeah, that's I mean that's all put together.
Mhm. Okay, cool. So 45 to $50, and that actually pans out pretty close to what I was assuming when I was publishing a lot of content at scale, just like you're talking about. And that takes into account, I suspect you pay your editor hourly. Is that correct?
It's a mix of how much work he's able to deliver and an hourly rate.
Okay, gotcha. So
So
it's
he
kind of
has
a blended delivery plus, and you come from, the complicated, I don't know if it was the consulting world, but there's like time and materials, and then you have like flat fees. So you have these blended rates that get complicated, but it's a good way to make sure the incentives line up across the board. So
okay. So in my
interesting.
defense, he's also an MBA. He has a very similar pedigree, so he understands what does this thing is all about. So
Got
I
it.
mean, in my defense.
Yeah. No, I mean it's a good way to set it up. And for the people that don't know what we're talking about, yeah, you can look up some contracts and like time and materials and some other. There's a bunch of buzzwords I forgot them at this point in time, but we can move on. So with the KGR, you mentioned it's been successful for you. You published 500 articles using just the KGR. For the people that say, "Hey, it's not working for me," do you have any tips on maybe why it's not working for them?
Okay, so Doug, honestly speaking, it is a long-term play. It would not happen um, overnight. If you would, I shared with you my traffic growth. You see, it's an ongoing sort of a growth. So I'd heard this and I saw it firsthand. The articles that I published about 6 to 8 months ago have now started ranking, and most of my publishing was back-ended, because the team was growing. So most of the publishing has, let's say, if I'm talking 500 articles, then 200 of them would have been published last month. Another 100 published the month that. So it takes time. I have to be patient with it, and which I was. I mean, I listened to all your podcasts, and time and again, people had said that it was working for them. So I figured, there's no reason why it should not work for me if I give it time. If you expect to publish an article today and it's let's say a 200 search volume article for 200 visitors to start coming the next month, it probably would not happen. But I can tell you from personal experience, articles which are 50 search volume are sending in 500 visitors a month to the website, but it took 6 months for it to happen.
Got it. And I guess, we'll peel back the onion or move the curtain. I'm mixing analogies here, but basically part of it's my fault because from a marketing standpoint, I said, hey, you can rank in 24, 48 hours, blah, blah, blah. I usually don't emphasize like where you will rank, but one of the origins of KGR, I don't think I've told you this, Gaurav, or if you've come across it in the past, me talking about it, but a lot of times people would publish content and they would not rank in the top 250 or anywhere where they can get any sort of tracking. So the idea that someone could publish something and then they would see, oh, I'm ranking 70. That's amazing. I've never ranked anything anywhere for any keyword, and it's never shown up on any metrics anywhere. So the fact that they're in the top 100 is great. Now, if you really find one that's low competition, there's a good chance you will rank, pretty high, maybe in the top few pages. And if it's very obscure, you happen to have good content, you can rank in the top 10 in 24 hours. That's definitely more rare, but I will bear some of the blame for, the slick marketing and a good name with a KGR, but I'm glad it's working for you. And from, I guess, the standpoint of publishing 500 articles, you mentioned, ramping up. Do you have an idea or a target for how many articles you want to be publishing across all your sites each month? Just curious, the scale that you're operating. That's a huge team,
I haven't really given this a very deep thought, but I've been too busy publishing articles to be able to optimize the sites. And the next target is now to optimize the sites where I'm identifying the quote unquote articles that will lend themselves to make good clusters. And for every article that's there, I want to be able to publish 3 to 4 supporting articles, which would be shorter in length, but they would lend more authority to what is out there in terms of the website. So I guess if I have, let's say, 500 articles, I'm talking of easily making it 3x in terms of word count and maybe 4 to 5x in terms of number of articles. And I have the infrastructure in place to be able to do.
That's just amazing. It's a big team, a lot of content you're pushing out. So one thing you mentioned before, I want to circle back to, and I'm sure some people identified it too. So you mentioned the recent Google update, which was December of 2020. The fact is, if somebody listens to this in the future, there's going to be a recent Google update. They're always coming around. So what happened? I know some of the graphs that you sent over, I did see a little bit of a dip in December. And what happened and what are you going to be doing moving forward here?
There were 2 things that happened. The bad thing was that 3 of my smaller sites were butchered, basically. So they completely lost all traction. And I figured that because they are all sites that I had bought from previous owners, they have not been really cleaned up in terms of their link profile. Neither have they gotten a more diverse set of articles. But it's okay, it's not a huge sort of a loss. I saw a big volatility on my top site, and that was in the December update. I'm not sure. I cannot be sure as to what happened. I saw a dip for a few days, but it came right back to where it was. And in fact, the last few days, it has kind of grown a little from off that base. So to be very honest with you, I don't know what happened, but one thing I know is that, and which I guess all of us know, our business is exposed to the risk. So I have now, in fact, today itself, I was making plans of what can I do to diversify both from the source of traffic, which is Google, and the source of revenue, which is Amazon. So I have formed plan for doing Pinterest marketing. And let's see, I don't know. I know that the niche is not very visual, but it's still something that now I have the resources to be able to do. So I plan to do that and see where things go from.
Very good. Did you come up with some other ideas for the revenue model? I know you mentioned the display ads. That potentially could make up the other half or even more, depending on the kind of content that you have and the RPMs that you may see?
So display ads is one, and I'm pretty bullish on lead generation. I always look at the traffic that comes to my site as people coming up with a problem, and while we are telling them that okay, this is the best ballpoint pen for journaling, but can we give them something else? Can we send them to the local bookstore, to the local pen store or something? Is there a way to be able to do that? So I experimented with a few things. I was not very successful, but I've seen some promise come up with depending on like what discussions I've had with these people. So we're running an experiment, seeing I've got some pop-ups on the website to see what happens. So
And speaking of like pop-ups and software, sort of shifting gears, do you have any like favorite themes or plugins or software that you're using on the site itself that you really like and you want to mention here?
yeah, sure. In fact, all of them have come from your recommendation. I really like Link Whisper. It has really helped internal linking, has helped make the process very easy. So that's one of my favorites. And AAWP is the other one. I know you don't like it, but I have really come to like the ability to display tables and product boxes. It might not be the best, but it definitely is the easiest and to run with something like that.
Yeah, AAWP super popular, and it was one of the sort of newer generation because there was a plugin called Easy Azon, which Gaurav, before you got into this stuff, Easy Azon was kind of like the plugin, and then it wasn't updated as much, and I think the owner and creator of the tool wasn't as interested in like pushing that software, and he's working on other stuff. But AAWP sort of brought some modern looking displays and it looks pretty good. And just to be clear, the one of the reasons I don't like it, although it's very functional and I've used it, many times, I don't think they have the operating agreement as sort of like their gold standard. So I think there's some things that you can do technically with AAWP, which are actually outside of the operating agreement, which could get you kicked out of the program, which obviously is like the worst thing you could do. So as someone who's recommending tools, I just can't recommend it, even though I'm an affiliate. And in the past, I think some of the things that they were doing were 100% fine. But at this point in time, Amazon's a little more stringent, and I try to stay on, this side of those rules. So, and I think there's ways, right, Gaurav, that you can use AAWP and you're not violating anything, right?
Yes, yes. So I did share this with you. When I took over the site and I was using AWP and I did get kicked out of the program and I had to reapply. Yes, I mean reviews is one thing that the star rating is something that you should not be touching at all, and then making sure that you're announcing the links and not. It does allow, and if someone from AWP is listening, I don't know, they might want to just look at it, but it does allow you to make the Amazon cart, which is, it's a direct ripoff of the Amazon button, which, I mean, having worked in the corporate world, I know that would ring alarms anywhere. So it's very easy to move away from these things, which I have. I would recommend anyone who's using AWP to also just look into, these were the two big ones that I found that would, they would definitely get you higher conversions. But if Amazon sees that, or if you're going to have an audit like happened with you, you can rest assured you'll not pass for sure, because it's just a copy of their cart, and no brand would like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And Amazon obviously protects their stuff pretty closely. They have, plenty of lawyers that can go, fight that. They don't even have to. Like, it's clearly just against those terms. So, okay. So you use AAWP, Link Whisper, any others?
Yeah, these are the two big ones. I am not a big fan of of the page builders. I really like doing things with the classic editor, makes things very clean, and I've developed a particular template for my reviews that converts really well. We've tested it and we've seen that. So basically, a combination of AAWP with Link Whisper and that particular template gives us something which has helped us to scale things.
Fantastic. Any particular WordPress theme that you like to use? I know you have plenty of sites now, so you must have something that you lean on.
I like Rehab and GeneratePress, both of them. GeneratePress is pretty clean and very lightweight, but needs a bit of coding. And Rehab has also been good. So yeah, these two themes. Astra is another one that I like. So my sites have a mix of these three running.
Got it. Yeah, and I've heard GeneratePress and Astra are pretty lean and, pretty vanilla, which is kind of what I prefer just in general. So out of the box, they probably look boring, but quite functional, right?
Oh yes, absolutely. And you can jazz them up however much you want. So
And I kind of like that in themes. I mean, I use the DIY themes thesis and then the focus skin or theme on top of it. And really, I mean, you're looking for a framework and then you can build on top of it what you need. Most of the time, we just need a clean site that can load fast and you don't really have to worry about like mobile as much if you just have something simple like delivered. So very cool. And do you use like sort of the normal like optimization for speed where you have like a CDN, caching and all that kind of stuff?
yes, yeah. One thing that has worked for me is shifting my site's hosting to WPX, and they are a little more expensive than your normal run-of-the-mill hosting companies, but very, very responsive and very hands-off. So once it's there on WPX, I just need to, if I need anything done, I just let them know and the team takes care of it. So I would I would recommend them, especially to anyone who has got multiple sites. Something like WPX it's pretty good.
Okay. And I've heard good things about WPX as well. With your sites, do you have separate hosting accounts for each one of your sites, or are they all on that WPX account?
Most of them now are on WPX, and if you were to ask me how they're implemented there, I don't know. So I just told them, these are the sites, take them and put them on your servers. So they take care of everything.
Got it. And they have a fast server response time, which that's one of the biggest hangups for, load time, where the client browser pings the server and then it takes whatever half a second to get back versus 100 milliseconds or something like that. Very clear to see if you run some speed tests, you can see that sort of cascading waterfall situation happening. So any other tips on like a fast loading site or anything like that?
No, not really. I think with these three or four things, we are 80% of the time, I guess. I mean, that's the 80-20 rule for you.
Yeah.
And if you've done 80% of things by doing 20% of the work, then of course you can get that extra, I don't know, 0.23 milliseconds, shaved off your load time. Is it worth it? That's a question you have to answer for yourself. I feel that if it is loading fairly fast on a mobile browser, on an off, not really on a Wi-Fi network, but normal 3G or 4G network, I'm pretty much home and dry. All said and done, our sites are very transactional in nature, at least so far. I mean, I haven't really been able to take them up to the authority level where someone's coming and spending 10 minutes reading an article just because it's so interesting. They're coming looking for a specific information. So as long as they can be in and out quickly, you give them the information that they need. And I guess you get the click. Your purpose is served. Google will like you. The reader will like you.
Early on, you mentioned that when you got the site and maybe published some of those early articles, most of your traffic was going to a handful of articles. And at this point, now that you have 500, how does that traffic break down as far as like traffic per post? And I'll just sort of leave it open because I know you're going to take us in a certain direction here.
Okay, yeah. So this is very interesting that has happened with the KGR content that I had published about 6 months back, really coming into its own. That when I had bought the sites, the top page was about 25% of the traffic, and the top 5 pages put together were a little over 80% of the total traffic, or maybe even closer to 90%. Now, what has happened is my top page is only about 5 point some percent of the total traffic. And the top 10, 15, 20 pages are not even maybe 30% or 35% of the total traffic. So the site has become very, very page independent. Like it's not dependent on one particular page or a handful of keywords ranking for me. Over the last 6 to 8 months, keywords have changed. The top pages have changed. But overall, the traffic has grown, and overall, the traffic to individual pages has also grown, which basically means that the pages which were really at the back of the line, they started kicking up traffic. So that's one, made me less reliant on few pages. Kind of works the other way around as well, where if you have to do a certain optimization, you cannot just do your top 5 pages and think that your 80% of your traffic is taken care of. But honestly, Doug, I'll take that any day. I'll take the diversification over pages any day rather than have just one page or maybe a handful of pages drive to the traffic. And I would say that has been primarily because I have targeted long tail, low competition fields.
That's awesome. I think, if people graph this out, I mean, you're literally describing and exemplifying the long tail. So previously you had the fat tail, you had, couple posts, lion's share of the traffic. Now, most of your posts are getting, whatever, 0.5% to 1% of your traffic, something like that. And the huge benefit here, which I'll explicitly state, is in the past, for example, on my first site that was getting a lot of traffic, I was ranking number 1 for a big keyword, maybe 7,000 searches per month, something like that. Was doing fantastic, making lots of money, lots of traffic every day. I dropped down to number 2. Catastrophic disaster. I didn't drop much in rankings. There was no issue. Going from number 1 to number 2 meant, you're getting 60% less traffic. And there's impacts not just on that main keyword, but for all the long tail keywords associated with that one too. So the benefit here is if you lose rankings from like say number 1 to number 2 or number 1 to number 5, at that point, it's only a small percentage of your traffic. So any one of those pages, if something happens where you lose rankings and lose traffic, it's a much smaller impact. So if it feels better, like as you're thinking about, potential Google updates, you're thinking about competitors. Do you have anything to add in that sort of topic area of reducing risk and helping you sleep at night?
Oh, absolutely, yes, Doug. And it happened exactly with me, where over the last 9 months now, my top page has changed thrice. My revenue has not come down. In fact, it has only gone up. There has been a churn in the top 5 pages, I would say, but definitely the diversification helps. I can see that that same thing, the smaller sites where they're not as diversified, that losing 1 or 2 keywords really impacts your overall volume, traffic, and your revenue. But I have to tell you that it is a long-term and expensive route to take. Content takes money to produce, takes money to optimize, publish. So anyone looking to do that should be in it for the long haul. It's not for you to put a bunch of content and flip the site in 3 months. Probably be up for disappointment. But if you plan to own and run the site for the next couple of years, then yes.
It's a pretty good move. Very good. Well, any other, thoughts before we sort of shift gears into another area, just on the site or, that spread of traffic?
No, I think that's largely it. Yeah, I mean,
Cool. So we kind of alluded to it before. You have a fairly big team. You have some capacity, and you and I were chatting, last week, and it sounds like you're going to be able to let people, use some of your writers and stuff like that in some capacity. Can you sort of tell us about this? I guess really a service that you're going to be providing.
yes. So as the sites have grown and matured, the amount of content that they require, the top two, has kind of reduced a little, and I have some spare capacity. So I was in touch with a few people through various Facebook groups, and I offered them this writing service of this writing fine. And it was a good experience overall. It was a win-win, right? They were able to get scale, which they would not have had. And they got trained writers, people who exactly knew how to write, how to kind of present, and the team is able to post the content to the WordPress backend, which means that they do what I do, basically read, hit publish, and then good to go. So some of them I've really helped scale up, and I'll be happy to offer your listeners the same service. In fact, I just quickly put together a landing page for anyone who wants to order some content to try us out. And we have a coupon for your listeners. So if they want, they can just put like order and get this coupon of 10% off. The coupon is DOUGDEAL. So DOUGDEAL. And they'll get straight 10% off of whatever they order from us. We do a couple of other things as well. So offer some very bespoke services. We have, if let's say you want an infographic, and this is a service that I developed myself. Initially, I had to give a detailed brief to get that infographic, but I trained some of my designers, and now I just send them the URL to the article, and poof, I get back an infographic in Canva. And to be honest with you, it does require a little bit of tweaking because, I mean, it's at the end of the day, I am the owner of the content, but it saves me hours of work because what I get back, I just put in comments, and within one or at most two revisions, it's up to the mark. So yeah, that's also something that I'll be very happy to help people with. And then lastly, I have a very special writer on my team. So that person's an occupational therapist, and we are able to produce very high quality EAT content, so to speak, which has good material in there, good references, infographics, and it's a very bespoke service. But all said and done, over the last 8 months, whatever problems I faced, I look to develop a team to solve those problems. And now that the capacity is there, I'm happy to offer the team's services to help your listeners.
Very cool. And we'll put the link and all the details and stuff that people need to check out. And it sounds like you're flexible as far as not with pricing necessarily, but you're flexible with what people might need. So I suspect if they would come in and they're like, hey, I need content, I need a few infographics, you could probably get the right kind of package for them for the amount of content they need and all those details. So very cool. And I'm putting in an order myself. I know we're chatting beforehand, so we got to get the specifics done, but I always like to, use a service and make sure I know exactly what's going on before I recommend anything. So pretty cool. And I think, this is one of those great examples. Let's take a step back and kind of wrap it up here. But I tell people, you may find that if you start a niche site, you may not like the whole process. However, you may find that you really love a portion. And I'm not saying you're like that, Gaurav. It seems like you're digging in and you're really enjoying, all the pieces of the process. But you identified an area where, hey, you have skills to build a team. You put one together, and I've seen this, with link building, with content, with other pieces where someone realizes they're really good at something way better than other people, and they're able to create a service around it. And like I said, you got a lot of stuff going on, and you have you seem to enjoy the whole process, keywords, publishing the content, and so on. So I think this is a cool service and a great example of taking action and then taking up the opportunities that show up right in front of you. You didn't know this was going to show up when you started a year ago, but hey, it looks like it's going to work out pretty well. And you happen to have, plenty of contacts. You put together the templates, which sound like convert like crazy. So very good. Awesome. Well, thanks, Gaurav. We're looking forward to getting, more frequent updates on, the progress that you're making. We're going to be documenting that over on Niche Site Project. So really looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doug. Thanks a lot.
Thanks again to Gaurav. Really appreciate him taking the time and sharing his story. It's super inspiring, especially the short amount of time that he's been able to get the results that he has. You will be able to follow along with his portfolio and his case study and all that stuff over at Niche Site Project. When this video airs, the first post probably won't be posted yet. However, do check this channel. You could check over on Niche Site Project, and it should be very easy to see where the various case studies are living and where you can get all the latest updates. They should be coming monthly, which is very exciting. I'm excited to have this more regular publishing schedule over on Niche Site Project. So if you're brand new to the channel, you made it to the very end, I really appreciate you watching. Have a look at some of the other videos. Please subscribe. And if you have questions, please ask in the comments below. Thanks.